Daisy. And the Trouble with Maggots. By Cass Gray. Chapter 1. The trouble with maggots is they are too wriggly. If maggots weren't so wriggly, then what happened yesterday, when I went fishing with my Uncle Clive, would never have happened at all. It's not my fault maggots are so wriggly. Or tiggly. Maggots are about the wriggliest, tiggliest things in the world. Especially when you shoot them through the air with a fishing catapult. Fishing catapults make maggots really wriggle-tiggle. And go a long way. And land in places where you were only kind of, but not actually definitely aiming for. Especially when it's windy, well, sort of windy. Okay, not that windy. Alright, not very windy at all. But the sun was definitely shining in my eyes. Which meant couldn't really see where I was aiming with the catapult. Which isn't my fault. Chapter 2. Fishing is the best. When my Uncle Clive asked me if I wanted to go fishing with him on Sunday, I didn't even know what fishing was. I didn't even know what a maggot looked like. Or a bait box. Now I do. Now I know loads about fishing. More anyway. And Harry Bayless. It was 2 Sundays ago that Uncle Clive asked me if I wanted to go fishing with him. He came over to our house with Auntie Sue and said he had bought a new fishing rod and was busting to try it out. That's the trouble with new fishing rods. They make you want to go fishing even more. First of all, he asked my mom if she thought I would like to go fishing with him. And then he asked my mom if she wanted to come too. The trouble with asking my mom if she wants to go fishing is my mom doesn't really like fishing as much as me. I don't know why, because fishing is absolutely brilliant. Maybe she thought she'd have to touch the maggots. Anyway, it didn't really matter, because my Auntie Sue doesn't like fishing as much as me and Uncle Clive either. But she does like picnics. And so does my mom. So that's what we did. We went fishing and picnicking all together at the same time. Picnics and fishing go really well together. Especially if it's a nice hot summery day like yesterday was. And especially if you go to the river at Paper Mill Lock where all the river boats are. Chapter 3. The trouble with river boats is Jack Beachwhistle thinks he knows everything about them. When I went to school last Monday, I couldn't wait to tell Gabby I was going to be going fishing with my Uncle Clive. Trouble is, Jack Beachwhistle was listening when I told her. That's the trouble with Jack Beachwhistle. He's got ears the size of an elephant. Jack Beachwhistle thinks he knows everything about rivers. Especially river boats. Just because he goes to Paper Mill Lock on Sundays to do canoeing lessons, he thinks that makes him an expert on everything in the whole world. Jack Beachwhistle says he's canoed past loads of river boats, which definitely makes him an expert on them. Plus, he said being the captain of his own boat makes him a double expert. Me and Gabby said that a canoe wasn't a type of boat at all, because it didn't have an anchor. Plus, proper boat captains wear hats. But Jack Beachwhistle said he did wear a hat when he was canoeing. It was a special safety hat, like a crash helmet, with straps that did up and everything. And he wore a life jacket. Jack Beachwhistle said that life jackets and canoe hats were better than captain's hats any day. Then he said he knew more about fishing than me too. And ducks. So I called him a poopy face. But he didn't listen. He just kept telling me about fishing. Jack Beachwhistle says he has canoed past loads of people when they were fishing. Which means he knows all about fishing and river boats and everything. Which makes him a triple-dipple expert. So I said he was a triple-dipple poopy head. But he didn't listen again. Even with those great big elephant ears he didn't listen. So I ignored him for the total rest of the day. Chapter 4. When I asked my mom if a canoe was a proper type of boat, she said that it was. even if it didn't have an anchor. Which made me really cross. Then she told me that it was wrong to call people triple-dipple poopy heads, or even single-dingle poopy heads. So I should say sorry to Jack Beachwhistle when I saw him at school the next day. Which made me even crosser. I was still feeling cross when I woke up on Tuesday morning. I was cross when I got dressed. I was cross when I had my breakfast. I was cross when I cleaned my teeth. I was cross when I put my packed lunch into my school bag. And I was still cross when I got to school. So there was no way I was going to say sorry to Jack Beachwhistle. There was no way I was going to say anything to Jack Beachwhistle ever again. But he made me. He waited by the school gates with Harry Bayless, and he made me talk to him. And listen to him. So did Harry Bayless. The trouble with Harry Bayless is he's a triple-dipple poopy head as well. He's only done about 2 canoeing lessons, and he thinks he's an expert on fishing and river boats too. When I saw Harry and Jack waiting by the school gates, I just knew they were waiting for me. And I just double knew they were going to tell me all about river boats and fishing again. And guess what? I was right. I was right on Tuesday. I was right on Wednesday. I was right on Thursday. And I was right on Friday too. It made me so cross. Chapter 5. Guess what they told me on Tuesday? They said that some fish have real actual teeth. Real actual teeth that can bite through fruit cakes. The trouble with Paper Mill Lock is it's got a cafe that sells fruit cake and everything. Harry Bayless said if you dropped a slice of fruit cake into the river beside Paper Mill Lock Cafe, a fish with really big teeth would swim up and swallow it in one go. Jack Beachwhistle said that if Elle wanted to catch a fish with big teeth out of Paper Mill River on Sunday, then I should absolutely definitely put a slice of fruit cake on my hook. Then Harry Bayless said I should try a chocolate mini roll with the wrapper off. But I didn't want to catch a fish with big teeth anyway. I'd much rather catch a roach. On Wednesday morning when I got to school, Harry Bayless and Jack Beachwhistle were waiting outside the school gates again. Guess what they told me this time? They told me that once when they were canoeing in the big pool right by Paper Mill Lock, they saw a canoe get eaten by a shark. Luckily, there wasn't anyone in it, otherwise the person driving the canoe would have been eaten too. At first I didn't believe there were sharks living in Paper Mill Lock, but then Jack Beachwhistle told me that the pool they do canoeing practice in was about 2 miles deep in the middle. 2 miles is easily deep enough for a shark to live in. And a killer whale. Harry Bayless said he saw a huge killer whale when he was practicing his kayak rolls. The trouble with kayak rolls is you have to do canoeing to know what they are. Kayak is another word for a canoe. And a kayak roll is like a sideways roly-poly in a canoe under the water. Jack Beachwhistle said you need to be an expert to do kayak rolls in a canoe. Your head has to go under the water, your shoulders have to go under the water, everything sticking out of your canoe has to go right under the water, until you go all the way under in a circle and turn your canoe up the right way again. Without dying. Harry said that learning to do kayak rolls is really scary at first, because you think you're going to drown when your head goes under the water. But after you come up the right way and you haven't died, you stop worrying so much. I said if you asked me, kayak rolls sounded silly. I said if I was driving a canoe I'd stay the right way up in my canoe all the time. But Jack Beachwhistle said that kayak rolls were super important. Trouble is, he couldn't think why. Harry said it was when he was trying to do a kayak roll for the first time that he saw the killer whale in Paper Mill Pool. He said he was upside down in his canoe, holding his breath and looking straight down below him, when this huge black and white shape loomed towards him out of the depths. I said it might have been Free Willy, because Free Willy definitely escapes at the end of the film he's in, so who knows where he escaped to. Maybe he moved to Paper Mill Lock? But Harry said the killer whale he saw was much scarier than Free Willy. He said it had really starry eyes and red teeth, and that it licked its lips when it saw him. That's the trouble with killer whales. If they're not free willy, they're probably going to eat you. Luckily, Harry still had his paddle in his hands, so he used it to bash the whale right between the eyes. Harry says if you bash a killer whale between the eyes with a paddle, it will scare it away for certain. Jack Beachwhistle said that if Elle wanted to catch a killer whale or a massive shark when I went fishing with my Uncle Clive, I should definitely cast my bait into the middle of the pool at Paper Mill Lock. But I didn't want to catch a killer whale or a massive shark anyway. I'd much rather catch a dace. Chapter 6. When I got to school on Thursday, I thought Harry Bayless and Jack Beachwhistle weren't there at first. Which was good, because I was getting really fed up with them being experts on fishing. Trouble is, they were hiding behind the wall, waiting to jump out on me. Don't fish near the bridge whatever you do, they said. If you fish near Paper Mill Bridge, the water troll might get you. A water troll lives right under Paper Mill Bridge, didn't you know, said Harry. The trouble with water trolls is they eat fishermen. And fisher girls. Or if they're not hungry, they make you into slaves. Jack Beachwhistle said that one Sunday he was canoeing under Paper Mill Bridge when this giant hairy hand with webbed fingers came right up out of the water and tried to grab him by the life jacket. Luckily he had a whistle on his life jacket for emergencies, so he blew it, and the water troll was frightened away. I said a troll would never be frightened away by a silly old whistle, but Jack said that the echo under the bridge made the whistle sound 100 times louder. Trolls don't like really loud whistles. Especially water trolls with webbed ears. At first I didn't believe in water trolls, but then Jack Beachwhistle told me a really scary story about a little girl called Androlina who got captured by the actual water troll under Paper Mill actual bridge. He didn't eat her though. He made her into his slave. This is what Jack Beachwhistle said had happened. Androlina was a 7-year-old girl who looked really like me. She had the same hair as me, and the same face as me and everything. She lived in the village and was very poor. So one day, to earn some extra pocket money, she got a job doing a paper round, delivering newspapers and magazines to houses right by the river. The trouble with houses right by the river is you can't cycle to them. Because there are no roads to cycle on or anything. There's only river. So instead of doing her paper round on her bike, Androlina had to do it in a canoe instead. One day, in the really snowy winter, Androlina was canoeing towards Paper Mill Bridge when her canoe struck an iceberg and sank. That's the trouble with icebergs. They sink everything. Trouble was, she still had loads of newspapers and magazines to deliver. So she grabbed all the newspapers and magazines before they could get wet, held them up above her head, and decided to swim to all the other houses instead. The trouble with swimming under Paper Mill Bridge is that's where the water troll lives. The trouble with swimming under Paper Mill Bridge with both hands above your head is it makes it really easy for a water troll to grab you. So Androlina got grabbed. By webbed hands. With hairy warts on. But luckily the water troll had already eaten about 8 people in canoes for breakfast. So Androlina got made into an underwater slave forever instead. Harry Bayless said that because I looked just like Androlina, the water troll was bound to try and grab me too if I went near the bridge with my Uncle Clive on Sunday. I said my Uncle Clive would save me, but Harry said that water trolls ate Uncle Clives for breakfast. And dinner. And tea. Jack Beachwhistle said maybe I should use myself as bait when I went fishing with my Uncle Clive. Then I could see if I could catch the water troll. Then I could set Androlina free. But I didn't really want to catch a water troll with my Uncle Clive. I'd much rather catch a skimmer bream. Chapter 7. By Friday, I wasn't really sure I wanted to go fishing with my Uncle Clive anymore. I wasn't scared of the water troll or anything. It's just that when I found out about the underwater witch mermaid who lives at the bottom of Paper Mill River in a sunken haunted canal boat covered in cobwebs that don't dissolve, I kind of went off the idea of going fishing for a while. Jack and Harry told me about the underwater witch mermaid and the spells she casts on people with her evil underwater fishing rod. Jack Beachwhistle said she'd been living at the bottom of Paper Mill River ever since the Second World War. That's when her canal boat got torpedoed by a submarine. The trouble with torpedoing and sinking a witch mermaid's canal boat is, it makes the witch mermaid's powers eviler than ever. Especially if her fishing rod turns into a wand with underwater haunted torpedo powers. Harry Bayless said that when the torpedo blew up the witch mermaid's canal boat, all the forces from the explosion went straight into the end of her fishing rod. And her fingernails. And her gum boils. Which made her the powerfulest underwater witch in the world. And crossest. And ugliest. And nastiest. Apparently the underwater witch mermaid that lives at the bottom of Paper Mill River is so cross and so ugly and nasty, she turns fishermen into dog poos. For no reason. That's what Jack Beachwhistle said. And Harry Bayless. At first, I definitely didn't believe them, but Jack Beachwhistle swore on his Action Man's life that I would see actual dog poos on the actual riverbank at Paper Mill Lock. Actual dog poos in the exact same places where the fishermen were standing when they got turned into dog poos by the witch's evil pooey spells. Harry Bayless said it was definitely true, and that sometimes if you put your ear right up close to some of the dog poos at Paper Mill Lock, you can hear the voices of the fishermen and fisher girls trapped inside. After that I went right off the idea of going fishing all through Friday morning assembly. All through Friday morning lessons. All through Friday morning break. All through Friday lunchtime. I didn't even eat my cheese spread sandwiches. All through Friday afternoon lessons. And all the way back to the school gates, where my mom was waiting for me after school. That was when Mom told me that Harry Bayless and Jack Beachwhistle were lying. They'd been lying about everything. All week. Chapter 8. The trouble with liars is they should be made to go to prison. In fact, liars who tell lies about fishing like Jack Beachwhistle and Harry Bayless should have to go to prison for about 300 years. And be made to eat peas every day. Until they turn green, and their lips fall off. When my mom told me that Harry and Jack had been winding me up about fishing all week, I was so cross, I nearly kicked a lamppost. Then, when my mom told me I was a poopy head for believing their silly stories in the first place, I did kick a lamppost. But then I wish I hadn't. That's the trouble with kicking lampposts. It really hurts. My mom said she didn't think Harry or Jack knew the slightest thing about fishing. And if I wanted to know about fishing, then the only person I should be listening to is my Uncle Clive. She said there were absolutely no sharks or whales or trolls or mermaids or water witches in Paper Mill River at all, and that if there were, she would use her magical paper mill picnic powers to fight them off. She told me that Auntie Sue had a magic picnic hamper that had been given to her by a white wizard when she was a little girl. Inside Auntie Sue's magic picnic hamper there were all the picnic weapons you could ever need to do battle on the riverbank with water trolls, water witches, water monsters or any other water baddies that came along when you were fishing. Inside the hamper there were exploding sausage rolls, walkie-talkie mini rolls, poison gas sandwiches and a thermos flask that fired long-range missiles. Plus there was orange squash that made you invisible when you drank it. And emergency boiled eggs that protected you with a force field when you peeled off the eggshell. Except there wasn't. Because now